Hello, everybody. My name is Jeremy Silverman, and I am the host of the Mental Health Podcast. Today, we have Cesar Baglione with us, and he's going to be talking a little bit about his struggles, his challenges, and how he's overcome some of them in the world of golf. And his selection today was Jay-Z's song called My First Song. So I'm really excited today to unpack this and learn more about what Cesar has to offer and what he can share with us about what he's doing for our community and business as well. So thank you, Cesar, for coming on the show with us. And I really appreciate you this morning. Thank you.
Appreciate you having me, Jeremy. Excited to be here.
So let's just get started. Let's talk a little bit about, give me a little bit of history and background as far as your golf experience and what's kind of led you up to today.
Yeah, so me, I grew up playing baseball my whole life. So I was about 18, always had that entrepreneur spirit. Didn't know what I wanted to use it on, but I knew I'd find it along my path. And my dad and uncles always played golf, so I took it up when I turned 20, and I was like, how hard can it be? And I'd try it out, and I could not hit the golf ball. I was like chunking it, thinning it, and I'm like, man, I didn't even want to be good at it. I just didn't want to be terrible, so I'd say I got full-on addicted to golf after that experience. And, I started working at a golf course because I'm like, man, this game's a little expensive. I got to find a way to play for like free or cheap, And I started working at Sawilo Golf Club at the Casino del Sol about 8.5 years ago. As a Pasquiyaki tribal member, pride of ownership is huge there. And I think it ties into, my first song with Jay-Z too, like you mentioned. But yeah, kind of just worked my way up there and found that there's space for indoor golf in Tucson. So working on that venture right now.
So tell us a little bit more about that indoor golf.
Yeah, so we want to bring TrackMan simulators. There's a few of them around town, but with native theme attached to it, as well as PGA professionals, owned and operated, there to give you lessons, there to welcome you to the space. I feel like barrier to entry to golf is a lot of that sense of belonging, and I think the underlying theme is like feeling invited to go out and play. Like Pastor John and I, we were just chatting. He's like, man, we want to go out and golf with so-and-so. And I'm like, that's so cool to get invited somewhere,
So what do you think that people coming to your establishment and that what can they gain through that experience?
Yeah, I think you make it your own space. What we're looking at is indoor golf lounges. So it's more laid back, and I love that approach to the game. I was talking to a buddy of mine who just played golf for the first time. We've known each other for like 15, 16 years. And he was like, yeah, it was fun, but I got rushed out on the golf course. Like, they expected me to have played like hundreds of rounds, but it was my first time ever. And it felt kind of unwelcoming, So
Right.
we want you to, rent our space out and use it however you'd like. If you want some golf lessons, we'll be there as well to help you get better at the game, because it gets more fun when you get better at it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember golfing myself years ago when I was in the restaurant hotels and that. That was one of the things that was real popular with a lot of us as employees, is you used to get, you either get reduced or free golf, tee times.
Absolutely.
And so, or if you kept the guys at the at the shack fed, you
100%.
you got a good tee time out of it. It's interesting when you mention that, golf obviously is a challenging game, and it's a game of skill, and also a mental game. And so when they're coming to your facility, and they're, taking advantage of some of the resources that you have, you had mentioned lessons in that. Tell me a little bit more about that and what you can offer for people when it comes to lessons.
Yeah, so I started teaching full time about a year and 2 months ago, and I was an assistant general manager at Sawilo, and lessons are part of that entrepreneur spirit, right? I love getting people dialed in with their games, hearing about not just that 1 hour session we had with each other, but their next practice session, their next round out on the golf course, and there are some success stories. There's some, hey, I'm overthinking everything, And
Right.
I'm like, all right, let's talk our way through it. What helped and what didn't. And I always say I'm forever a student of the game, so I still constantly go to teaching and coaching seminars, being able to have access to the best teachers in the world, being with the PGA. But you got to be a sponge, and I love bringing that back to the programs and the individuals we have here at home. PGA Hope for Disabled Veterans, that's an awesome program. Been with for about 5.5 years now. Our PGA Junior League, I teach 45 tribal youth every season.
Nice.
The game of golf, and they're starting to compete around town and making it on their high school teams, and it makes me feel older, but it's also like, man, there's nothing like that feeling. Trying to get them to love the game like I do. You know?
Right.
And very, very lucky and blessed to have been awarded the PGA Southern Chapter Player Development Award for 2025.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's really
and,
cool.
And the Patriot Award as well. So I'm like, man, this is insane. And yeah, it goes to show how many awesome people, mentors I've had, and folks that just give me every resource that I need to make those type of events and programs happen.
That's really cool. So we're going to unpack this a little bit, and I was looking at your song choice, and what I love about this is that I picked out the chorus to Jay-Z's My First Song. And it basically goes like this. It's my life, it's my pain, and my struggle. The song that I sing to you, it's my everything. Treat my first like my last, and my last like my first, and my thirst as the same as when I came. That is so, so powerful. When you hear that, what does that bring to you? I mean, what comes to you? What resonates when you hear that chorus in the song?
I think it pertains to a lot of things that we do. Like for me, every lesson I give, you got to treat it like it's your first lesson. I remember breaking into the golf industry. You sort of have that imposter syndrome, like, man, I don't want to take this person's money if I'm not good at giving lessons yet, But you gotta break through that and think about your experience that led you to this point, like being in the seat. You gotta be able to believe in yourself and break through that imposter syndrome for sure.
And I like what you were saying about, treat every day like it's your first. And just like you had mentioned previously in the example of, the gentleman being thrown, put on the course in this very first time. And I do think it's a sense of vulnerability. Mm-hmm. When you master something and you have the humility and the humbleness to go back, to where you came from, and then relive that experience. Obviously, you've got the cheat, so to speak, on life. But the thing is, it's kind of like choose your own adventure. Mm-hmm. You can go back, and I love the fact that when you look at it from that perspective, and you're looking at anything new that you're embarking on. There's that feeling, that excitement, that nervousness, the scaredness, all of those things, all those emotions come into play. And those are really those life emotions that I think Jay-Z's really trying to capture, in that chorus. Mm-hmm. And in that piece, life. And so when you kind of look at mastering something so well, you kind of get used to it. You become numb to it. You become less appreciative of it. Mm-hmm. Maybe not even as grateful for it. But taking that perspective and going backwards like that really can reframe the purpose and all of those things. So when you're looking at your business now and you're looking at some of the challenges that you may be having in launching this, what's one of the things that really stand out right now that you're facing and that you're having to deal with head on?
Yeah, I think for me is learning commercial real estate as I go. In the golf industry, I was an interim general manager at my course for about 3 months, and then assistant general manager for 2.5 years after that. But commercial real estate never came up as a topic, but I look at it as a challenge and something to overcome, not be afraid of. You hit it on the nose when you talk about vulnerability with that song, because a lot of people don't realize Jay-Z he put out his first album when he was 26 years old. So it comes from like I think a wise and mature space. And I think that album was his third or fourth that he put out. So a lot of people look at rap and hip hop as like a young person's sport, I'd say too, because there's a lot of competition, but the scope has changed a lot as well. But yeah, that's how I feel about it.
That's really cool. So one of the challenges when we were kind of breaking down some of the questions was you had made it a point to me about the fact that taking the PGA management course and going through that process were some challenges. So tell us a little bit about those challenges and how you overcame them.
Yeah, there's two huge hurdles in that. You have 9 years to complete the PGA Professional Golf Management Program. So it's like online business school for golf, and so many different subsections of turf grass management, cart fleet management, customer service, customer relations, food and beverage management. Then the other side is you have to be okay at playing golf. So
That would be helpful.
yeah, one of the challenges is you have to play 36 holes in one day and shoot a certain score. So for me, preparing for that mentally, physically, I always tell my students, you don't prepare for a marathon by running half of it. So I was playing 36 holes, 54 holes a day, just to
Wow.
mentally prepare for that challenge. And then again, that imposter syndrome seeks in, like, man, am I good enough to be a pro? And my first time playing it's called a playability test. I withdrew from it, and I remember everyone was so like, "Whoa, you withdrew? Like you're supposed to play it all the way out." I was like, "Yeah, I just didn't have it.
Right.
The game wasn't feeling it that day." And it's such a streaky sport, right? You have to like be there mentally, physically, and just prepared to leading up to it. It's days in preparation, electrolytes, and
Right.
good sleep, all that stuff. And then the second time I passed it by one stroke, and that was super nerve wracking. Like I'm playing a desert course, and all I see is the desert. But yeah, you stick to your routine is the biggest thing with golf. People come to me and they want lessons, and they say, "Yeah, I just want to be really consistent." I say, "All right, well, what's your pre-shot routine?" They're like, "Well, I don't really have one." I'm like, "All right, well, you're going to make me look like a great coach because we're just going to do this pre-shot routine, and it's going to clear those thoughts in your head."
That's really interesting. So, as a coach and working with your clients in that particular aspect, getting in their head is a real important piece to that, huh?
100%. Sometimes we don't even talk about golf. We're chatting about other things that are going on outside of the sport that's affecting their game, especially with the PGA Hope program. Like I've been through 90-minute sessions where I'm just chatting with the veterans about how their day's going, how their week's going, or challenges that they've had.
So let's talk about that a little bit, veterans,
Mm-hmm.
because that's one of my favorites.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me a little bit about how you engage with them, and what your program, and how you interact with them.
Yeah, I love PGA Hope. It's definitely one of my favorites since joining the PGA. We go through a training actually to learn how to communicate with veterans and work with adaptive athletics too. So it got down to things I would have never thought of. They take you out to the driving range and they pair you up with another professional, and they sit you down like you're simulating being in a wheelchair and have you swing golf clubs. Then have that pro teach you, and then you switch roles with that pro. And then they also blind you with goggles, and you switch roles with that pro, and they plug your ears so you can't hear. So those are really eye opening to me. And they teach us about the suicide rates amongst our veterans, and I'm like, man, if this segue of golf and introducing that to their lives can make a difference in one veteran's life, and that's gonna be huge.
That's pretty profound. I mean, when you say that, because I wasn't really even thinking about the disabilities aspect of it,
Mm-hmm.
and the fact that they still can play.
Absolutely.
I mean, question to ask for you is, like, when you're blindfolded,
Mm-hmm.
what did that feel like for you? Like, what was that experience like?
It unlocked different skills. I feel like you have to tap into that, and this is kind of unique because I am a golfer. I had to tap into that golfer before, but we use a lot of sounds and feelings. Like we were chatting before about the different ways that people learn. Sometimes it's visual, it's audio, it's actually I'm grabbing the club in a person's hands and feeling it out. So you have to lean on those two aspects of it way more for sure.
That's really interesting. It gives me some thought on that, because I'm like, wow, like, I can't even imagine what it would be like, because I never thought of it that way. Same thing, like the ability to not be able to hear.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I mean, those things are all key importance, and not to mention just the general disabilities. What are some other? You had mentioned another organization that you work with, as far as when it comes with kids, correct? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I joined the board for the Pasuyaki Tribe charitable organization, and I was elected as president about 2 months ago.
Oh,
So
congratulations!
I'm super excited about that. Thank you. I have, again, great mentors in my life, and they told me, hey, you need to join the board. You need to become president and start giving back. I'm like, all right, sounds good. I'm pretty busy, but I'm up for it. And it's unlocked different doors. Right now we're working on bringing youth basketball camps with the University of Arizona to our tribal youth. But what I love about the charitable organization, our mission is to help working class families, whether they're Pasuyaki tribal members or not. So it's separate. It's a separate state chartered nonprofit from the actual tribe itself. So it's awesome to get the kind of support you do, because we were talking about in Tucson, biggest nonprofit per capita in the country, which makes for its different challenges too.
Right.
A lot of organizations are asking for funding and support, but it goes to show how big of hearts there are in this town.
That's awesome, man. I love talking with our guests and learning more about, like you said, Tucson is one of the largest nonprofit, communities. And it's amazing how, I'm still learning about more new, nonprofits every single day. I believe there's over 9,000 of them in the Tucson area. But it's pretty amazing to hear what you're doing when it comes to that. So let's shift gears a little bit, and let's talk a little bit about how you work with your clients when it comes to coaching. So if you've got a client, like you mentioned, that wants to be more consistent and wants to play better, what are some of the first things, you had mentioned about their warm-up routine, those types of things. What if you've got somebody that's already experienced, but they've got bad habits? How do you address that?
I think we take it step by step with their goals. What's all right, you got experience. What are you looking to shoot? And if I'll just use like an avatar, somebody who wants to break 80. I love that kind of challenge, because a lot of people I work with are beginners or just starting off or just want to have fun with it, But dialing people in, I use technology with my lessons. So I have an outdoor launch monitor, gives you 16 different numbers every time you hit a shot. And
Oh, wow.
for me, like as a player, just like blows my mind. I'm like, I don't even want to know all those, I have to, as a coach, what it means. But I think with the younger generations really resonates, tying numbers into feelings with their golf swing. Hey, if you fix this number, that ball's going to go straighter. It's not going to curve as much at the end of the swing. And the numbers don't lie. I can tell somebody, yeah, that looks good, and they don't believe me because it's a perspective thing.
Sure.
Then I show it to them on the video, and they're like, oh, okay, I get what you're seeing now.
So technology is a really powerful piece when it comes to your coaching now, as far as things have advanced.
It definitely is, but you've got to feel it out with the individual too. Different generations learn different ways. Sometimes that technology is way too much for people. They're like, you know what, I like it. I don't think I'll ever use it again. And that's totally fine. Let's take a different approach and find ways to shave those strokes off your game. And Pastor John and I were just talking about a new putting system that I have. It's like in a little box. It's powered by AI. It's got this rolling mat, putting mat that rolls very true. And I was telling him, it's funny, no one's ever come to me and said, hey, can I get an hour lesson on putting, or even just a straight up half-hour lesson on putting?
Right.
They're like, I'll sneak it in at the end of the lesson or 10 minutes before. And it's the most important part if you're trying to be consistent and shave scores off your shave strokes off your score. That's a little tongue twister.
Yeah, it's a tongue twister. Yeah, it's a little tough, right?
It's almost as tough with my last name.
Yeah, it is a challenge. Well, and the reason why I asked that question is obviously I've got a lot of bad habits, in my golf. But at the same time, I generally enjoy it. I love getting out, even just the weather, the environment, the whole thing. The camaraderie, the business, the pleasure, all of those aspects of it. So, being busy and being a coach and working with others, obviously you have your own struggles stresses, things like that. How do you cope with the pressure in that when it comes to those particular times where you're in that imposter syndrome, or maybe you're doubting your abilities or skills?
I think a lot of it comes down to the people around me. I've got an amazing girlfriend. She's super understanding of when I'm like, man, I got so much to do today. My schedule's kind of crazy. But it's also these different forms of therapy, like we talked about music. When I'm studying, I'm listening to a certain playlist. When I'm practicing on the range, I'm listening to a certain playlist. And I'm constantly updating it because you go through different stages in your life, and my other form of therapy is golf. It's this little white ball, you're trying to hit it into a hole. And for example, this weekend, Mide and I, we got to go out to San Diego. We were watching a Padres game. Then we golfed a little bit, and I had to get together so many things before we went out to play. And I'm like, I was up before her like 6 in the morning working. And then we went out to golf, and all that just like went away. We were just having fun and having a good time. So
That's awesome. So, one of the things I was thinking about was that, when you're playing golf and you're getting better, obviously it's instill confidence.
mm-hmm.
So when you're having that great game, or you're working with that client and you're seeing that improvement, how do you react to that? How do you respond to that?
Man, there's no feeling like it. I mean, it's a lot of enthusiasm and support in that sense. Like, people's expectations, they vary greatly. When I teach juniors, they're super happy they hit it far, even if it went way right. Or I teach like businessmen who used to hit it 300 yards, and they've been playing a long time. They hit it like 250 down the middle, and they're in their 60s, and they're like, I've hit it farther before, you
Right.
know? But I still, change that perspective for them. Like, hey, you hit it, I'll take straight over long any day of the week. Or the kids, we get fired up, and I have like the leaders in the group of the other kids, like, hey, go fire him up. He's doing great, or she's doing awesome over there. You should go like help coach her a little bit more.
Oh, that's awesome. So what I see from, like, one of the things that I also highlighted from the song choice that you have was the last line of the chorus that says, that's how you try to treat things, like just staying hungry.
Mm-hmm.
And so do you think competitively, when it comes to golf, obviously you got to be hungry to be to compete. How do you maintain that level, in your day-to-day life?
Yeah, golf is such a unique sport in the sense it's you against yourself and you against the golf course. Whatever is going on around you, you're not really playing against the person next to you as much as you think. That level of hunger, like songs like that, keep me motivated. It's the storytelling, and it's putting yourself back in that seat that you were in, whether it was like an old car you had, or those rounds you used to shoot. Like, remember how hungry you were, waking up early, going to the range, and
Right.
I really lean on the process. I think we get nervous because we're not prepared for something. So when you practice a lot, going to school at the University of Arizona right now, when I'm not prepared for a test, that's when I get nervous. So I'm like heavily prepared for things when I go into them.
That is awesome. So if people wanted to reach out to you for lessons, to learn more about what you do, or to even get involved in some of the nonprofits that you're engaged with, how would they be able to reach out to you?
Yeah, that's my email address is cesar.balgagnon@pga.com. You can find me on socials, CB2 PGA, and my website, cbiigolf.com.
Awesome. Well, I really thank you for being a guest on our show today. And again, everybody, the Mental Health Podcast shares real stories from business owners, individuals, about how music fuels their motivation, their resilience, and their drive to make a positive impact in the community. And I'd like to close out with just a quick prayer. And that is, Father God, thank you so much for having Cesar today in our group here in our podcast. It was amazing to hear his stories And I really look forward to seeing great things from him, his community, his business, and those nonprofits that he involves himself with as well. And I would encourage you guys to reach out to Cesar and see what more you can do to maybe help him out and what he can do to help you. Again, thank you so much for tuning in today, you guys. I'm Jeremy Silverman, your host of the Mental Health Podcast. Thank you.